Welcome to my viewers, and if you think a quiet beach night with your friends is the perfect setting for a carefree memory, you might want to think again. Sometimes, what starts as innocent fun can turn into something you'll never forget, for all the wrong reasons. I want to share something that happened to me, something I still don't fully understand, and honestly, something I still think about way too often. I was 25 at the time, living in a small beach town where everything I did revolved around the ocean. My neighborhood was about 20 minutes from the shore, and it wasn't unusual for sand to fall out of my shoes even when I hadn't been to the beach that day. Surfing, bonfires, barefoot walks. 80% of who I was could be summed up by coastal living. My two closest friends, let's call them Armin and Chuck, were wild, outgoing, and definitely not shy. At 18, like me, they were totally girl-obsessed and lived for adrenaline. One Saturday night in late May, just a few weeks before graduation, we were deep in that senioritis phase. We had already been accepted to colleges, and our high school responsibilities had completely taken a back seat. That night, Armin and I had plans with two girls we'd been vibing with from school, Sophia and Fran. The idea was simple: wine, blankets, and a peaceful night under the stars at a quiet beach. I pulled up to Sophia's place a little after 9 IGN. Both girls came out giggling and swaying a little. They'd clearly been pre-gaming. Armin and I shared one of those looks guys give each other when they know the night's off to a promising start. I took the scenic route toward a more secluded stretch of coastline. The drive took about 30 minutes, but the vibes were perfect. Jokes flying, casual flirting, and even a weirdly deep conversation between Fran and me about death and time. I'd picked this beach on purpose. You could drive up a dirt path and then walk down a steep sandy trail. It was remote, free from tourists, and far enough from the boardwalk to give us a crystal clear view of the sky. I figured we'd have the whole place to ourselves. I parked as far up the dirt path as I could, and we all grabbed the essentials, blankets and wine, and made our way down. The next few hours passed, like any perfect beach hangout would. Eventually the group drifted apart. Armin and Fran wandered up the shore, while Sophia and I went the opposite way. Once we were far enough apart, I laid out our blanket, and we crashed on it, buzzed and laughing. Then things changed. Right before anything happened, Sophia suddenly tensed up. I froze, worried I'd done something wrong. But then she whispered, "Do you hear that?" I sat still, trying to cut through the background hum of the ocean. At first I heard nothing, just waves. But then I noticed a soft mechanical whirring. It wasn't steady. It moved around and seemed to fade in and out. I couldn't pinpoint it. I told her it was nothing and tried to relax again. We went back to what we were doing until I reached for my shirt, shook the sand out, and slipped it on. That's when Sophia screamed. She was staring straight up, pointing. I turned, squinting at the black sky, but I saw nothing at first. I sat beside her and followed her line of sight. Then I saw it. Perfectly aligned with the moon was a drone, hovering silently overhead. It didn't stay long. Just a few seconds later, it zipped upward and vanished into the dark. The whirring we'd heard earlier, it was the drone. Someone had been watching us. My stomach dropped. All the good energy from the night dissolved in an instant. I could tell Sophia felt the same, curling into herself, crying. I helped her up and told her we needed to get back to the car. When we arrived, Armin and Fran were already there. I quickly told them what happened. Their faces dropped. The night was officially ruined. The girls didn't feel safe going home. It was still early enough, and none of us wanted to split up. But their parents wouldn't let boys hang out at their place, and neither Armin nor I could host either. That's when I thought of Chuck. His place was huge, and his parents were practically ghosts. Armin called him. He was down. When we pulled into Chuck's driveway, the others got out and walked up to the house. I stayed back, needing a second alone. I was way more rattled than I'd let on. I rested my head against the steering wheel eyes shut, trying to ground myself. After a few seconds, I grabbed my phone for the first time since everything happened. The screen lit up with a single notification. It read, "AirTag found moving with you. Time stop." I blinked, hoping I misread it, but it was still there. My heart started racing. We were being tracked. I bolted from the car and began tearing through every corner, under the seats, behind the mats, in the bumpers. Nothing. Panic set in as sweat dripped down my back. I got on my hands and knees and started searching under the car. Finally, on the inside edge of the driver's side wheel well, I found it taped in a way that made it nearly invisible. An AirTag. I held it for a second, frozen with dread, before smashing it to pieces on the pavement. Whoever had been flying that drone now had our location. I sprinted to Chuck's front door, clutching the broken bits, and told the others everything. The girls checked their phones and found the same notification. Chuck was furious we might have led a stalker to his house. After some panic and pacing, we all eventually settled into Chuck's basement and stayed the night, shaken but unharmed. A couple of weeks passed without incident. We allowed ourselves to believe it was just a sick prank, a creep with a drone and an AirTag, hoping to scare some kids. Then came the photos. One Sunday morning, Chuck called me, his voice frantic. "Get to my house now." When I arrived, he stood in the driveway, holding what I thought were papers. They were photos, grainy, low-light shots, of me and Sophia, from that night on the beach. Nothing graphic, but intimate enough. The worst part was knowing someone had taken them, had been that close. We went to the police, who didn't offer much help. They dusted for prints, but found nothing. Sophia was understandably horrified. She worried about blackmail, and honestly so did I. It changed everything between us. That kind of fear sticks. Thankfully, nothing more came from it. I can only assume that getting law enforcement involved scared off whoever was behind it. Still, the experience was deeply unsettling, and now every time I go to the beach, I catch myself looking at the sky just a little too long, wondering if something's hovering silently above me. Tonight's story takes us to the Jersey Shore, long after the sun's gone down, when the beaches are deserted and the wind whispers things you can't explain. What started as a quiet night under the stars turned into one of the most unsettling encounters of my life. So settle in and let me tell you what happened. My best friend Ricardo and I were 19. At the risk of sounding pretentious, both of us came from well-off North Jersey families and spent our summers down the shore. My family's house was in Belmar, his in La Valette. That night, Ricardo was driving us from my place in Belmar to his just under an hour on a quiet stretch of Route 35. Honestly, I always preferred hanging out at his house. La Valette just had a better vibe for people our age. Less rowdy tourists, more private beaches, and a kind of eerie tranquility you couldn't find anywhere else. If we weren't chasing down parties, we'd sneak drinks and smoke joints on the sand, far from the eyes of cops or locals. That night, though, we both agreed to lay low. No parties, no mischief, just us, some beers, a joint, and the ocean breeze. After a few drinks at Ricardo's, we grabbed bikes from his garage and headed out. For some reason, Ricardo wanted to ride farther than usual, out past the neighborhoods we knew, toward the end of a dark residential road. Every house we passed had its lights off, and there were no cars in sight. I didn't mind. It meant fewer people who might spot us smoking or drinking underage. Eventually, he pulled up to a beach access point I'd never seen before. It looked forgotten. No signs, no fences, just a narrow sandy trail tucked between tall dune grass. We hid our bikes behind a dense patch of shrubs and walked out onto the cold, empty beach. It was beautiful, silent, except for the ocean. The sky was clear, lit up with stars, and the sand felt cool and soft under our feet. We passed a joint between us and let the drinks kick in, laughing about dumb memories and talking about the future. We laid back and stared at the sky, hoping to catch a shooting star. That's when I heard it. A faint metallic buzz, almost like the hum of those giant fluorescent lights in high school gymnasiums. It was subtle, nearly drowned out by the ocean, but it felt wrong, out of place. I sat up, squinting into the dark. Ricardo noticed the shift in my posture and froze, clearly hearing it too. The weirdest part, we couldn't place the direction of the sound. It didn't seem to be coming from the dunes or the waves. It was just everywhere, ambient, and despite the warmth of the night, I felt goosebumps rise along my arms. We stayed frozen for a moment, unsure of what to do. Eventually Ricardo gave me a look and nodded. Time to leave. We stood up, and that's when it hit us. The buzzing surged from barely audible to deafening in less than a second. No build-up, just boom. It was there, filling our ears with this electric hum that felt like it was vibrating inside our skulls. The sound was coming from our right, near the dune. We turned, expecting to see someone. Maybe a utility truck, a drone, something that made sense. But we saw nothing. Still, something primal kicked in, and we ran. Sand flew up around our feet as we sprinted toward the dune entrance, hearts pounding in our chests. I was so focused on getting out of there that I didn't realize Ricardo had stopped until I felt his hand slam down on my shoulder, halting me mid-stride. He was staring up. There, silhouetted against the stars, was a figure, tall, unnaturally tall, with arms that hung down almost to its knees. It wasn't moving. It just stood at the top of the dune like it had been waiting for us. I couldn't make out any details. No face, no clothes, just this void black shape, darker than the night itself. The buzzing intensified again, pressing against my temples, like static electricity building up behind my eyes. Ricardo shouted something, and we bolted, this time not toward the dune, but parallel to the shoreline. Our feet tore through the sand, lungs burning, panic in full control. We finally found another dune entrance, and scrambled up, turning at the top to see if we were still being followed. And there they were, not just one figure now, 4, maybe 5, all identical, all standing perfectly still in a line along the original dune, facing us. Watch. We didn't stop again. We tore through backyards, hopped fences, and didn't say a word until we were safe inside Ricardo's house. Door locked, lights off. The next morning, we returned to find our bikes gone, just gone. We scoured the area, not a single track in the sand, no footprints but our own, no tire marks, no signs we had ever even been there. I still don't know what we saw that night. I've never heard that droning buzz again. Not on any beach, not anywhere. And to this day, neither of us talk about what we think those things were, but I know what I felt. We weren't alone, and whatever was out there, it saw us first. If you've ever spent a summer by the water, this story might change the way you see the beach forever. What started as an unforgettable weekend with friends turned into one of the most chilling experiences of my life. And even now, years later, I can't look at a dock or the darkness beyond it without remembering what we saw that night. This is the reason beaches terrify me. Beaches used to be my favorite place on earth. As a kid, there was nothing better than the salty air, the soft sand, and the sound of crashing waves. Every summer, my family would spend weekends at our beach house, and if I got lucky, I'd spend time at my friend Charles' house on Long Beach Island, OBI for short. He had a great spot right on the lagoon. I was 6 when this story happened. My friends Charles and Riley were there too. Riley, being a year older, had just gotten his license, so for the first time ever we were going down the shore with our parents. That freedom, it felt like gold. The car ride was a mess, in the best way. Riley wasn't exactly a skilled driver, so the trip was filled with swerves, close calls, and a whole lot of laughter. When we arrived, we moved our bags into the bedrooms and got comfortable. The layout of the house sticks with me even now. A front entrance, a garage connecting front and backyards, a back sliding door, and an upstairs deck with a spiral staircase down to the ground level. The back of the house overlooked a quiet lagoon, just water and rows of houses facing each other. We were at that age where chasing girls was priority number one. After a few hours of Snapchatting, we lined up a group of 3 girls, Rosie, Alexa, and Sophie, to hang out. We had weed, some liquor stolen from our parents' cabinets, and no adult supervision. Life was perfect. Eventually, all 6 of us crammed into the small pool in the backyard, joints in hand and drinks in the other. It was bliss, until Charles suddenly killed the music and froze. He was staring across the lagoon. I looked too, but I couldn't see anything but vague shadows of the homes on the other side. "What is it?" one of the girls asked. Charles whispered, "There's someone standing on the dock across from us." I laughed it off. "Who cares? People live here." "No, I know the family who owns that house. They're in Florida this week." I still wasn't convinced, but the girls definitely were. They wanted to go inside, so we got out of the pool. That's when Riley cursed and jumped back. We turned, and there was movement across the lagoon. At first, it was too dark to make out. Then a car drove by behind the opposite dock and lit it up just enough. What we saw chilled me to the bone. 4 tall figures stood at the edge of the dock, just staring. "Go inside now," Charles whispered. We hurried through the sliding door and locked it. Riley and Charles ran to check the front. That's when we heard them. 4 loud splashes from the lagoon. They were swimming toward us. Panic set in. Riley cursed again. I forgot to lock the upstairs deck door. Too late. A few moments passed in silence, and then we heard the soft, deliberate footsteps upstairs. We were done. No weapons. High, drunk, terrified. We ran. All 6 of us dashed out the front door and piled into Riley's car. He floored it, even smashing Charles's mailbox in his panic. Once we were far enough away, we called the police. They searched the house, but it was too late. The top floor had been ransacked. Jewelry, money, electronics all gone. But the worst part, Charles's dad's boat, a decent-sized Boston whaler, was gone too. The police figured the intruders found the spare keys hidden beneath the steering wheel hatch. A detail only someone close to the family would know. Whoever they were, they didn't just break in. They knew us. They knew the house would be empty. They knew where the boat keys were hidden, and they weren't afraid to swim across a dark lagoon to get to us. That night changed everything. I haven't looked at a beach or a lagoon the same way since. I double-check every lock, every window. I keep a bat by my because once something like that happens, you realize just how fast a perfect night can turn into a nightmare. Thanks so much for watching. If this story gave you chills or made you rethink your next beach trip, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more true horror stories, just like this one, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had a vacation turn terrifying? I'd love to hear your stories below. Stay safe out there, and lock your door.